very excited that we can all join again, so that's good. The webinar is being recorded now, so let's just give then one more minute to bring back everybody to be a panelist, so that's real good. Great, nice to see you all again. While I eat, let me bring up my screen. I think we can start. Okay, great. Would like to start with a word of prayer. Would like to pray for us this morning, please. I would request someone to pray for us. Kindly. Be nice for someone to pray for us, someone to unmute themselves. So it's nice to start with a word of prayer. Anyone, please? Many people can pray. Anyone?
Good morning, Catherine.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I will pray.
Thank you, Priscilla. Appreciate it. Okay.
Let's pray.
Thank you.
Father, we thank you. We come back to you today to listen to what we left yesterday. We thank you, Lord, for waking us up on time. We are going to use these systems, Lord, which are created by man. So protect them, Lord, and let us not lose touch when we are communicating. Help us, Lord, listen and understand all the details that we are going to talk today and to be taught. Help us in communicating so that we may learn more, because it's only through communicating faster that we will be able to cover the course, Lord. We ask for those who have not connected, Lord, you fasten their steps, Lord, so that they may reach on time and be able to catch up with us. We thank you, Lord. We bless your name, for it is in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Yeah. Thank you, Priscilla. Thank you. Yeah. Just it's so nice to remember that equipment. And one thing that I always pray for, oh my gosh, is constant power when I'm presenting. Always just say a prayer, God, the power. Okay, great. Nice to see you all bright and happy, bright and early. I hope you've had your favorite cup of beverage, whether coffee, tea, some hot Milo or whatever, ready to engage. And we move on from there. So would like to recap yesterday's webinar, what we took away, what we learned, how we reflected back. I gave some reflection, whether you were able to do that, and then also set the tempo for today in terms of what is expected, what we would like to hear, and then we move on from there, especially for the interest of the people who either joined late or the people who are joining today for the first time. I want to recap just what you learned yesterday, what you took away. Anyone? Good highlights, good discussions yesterday? Anyone? Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself, please. Mm-hmm. Anyone, please unmute, feel free to share. If I call out, I won't call out, but still feel free to share what you learned yesterday. Let's share. There's a lot that we learned yesterday. Mhm.
Good morning, Catherine. This is
Morning.
Jane.
Yeah.
I heard about the importance of feedback, and also we shared about the challenges that each of us or many organizations face in giving feedback. Over.
Thank you. We talked about feedback and the challenges that we faced and some of the real life examples that some of us face at our workplaces. Someone else? Anyone? Anybody
Morning,
else?
Catherine.
Morning.
Yesterday, I think we learned about feedback in terms of constructive feedback and destructive feedback, and how to give it. And I liked how we ended in terms of giving some case study so that our mind is open to even more, and even at what point to give that feedback. So for me, my takeaway is the two different kinds of feedback, and particularly how to give the constructive feedback.
How to give constructive feedback, types of feedback, positive feedback, negative feedback, destructive feedback. We also say that positive and negative feedback should reinforce change of behavior. It should also motivate. Someone else? And we looked at some case studies, scenarios where we could actually look in depth what it means. Was it constructive feedback? Was it destructive feedback? Was it negative feedback? And how we would have solved it. And we saw indeed it was the same way that the case study gave us the answer. Someone else? Thank you. Someone else? Went further. Recap yesterday's discussions. Anyone else? Anyone about the tools that we can use? Tools that we can use. Has my screen come?
Yes, it's there.
Thank you. Anyone on the tools that we talked about? Recap on the tools or the process flow of giving feedback? No one? Very quickly on the tools. You don't have to be specific on the 10 tools, but maybe you could mention one that you really felt that was useful, that was very dear to your heart. Anyone?
Maybe I can input. In terms of the tools to use, which were 10 of them, there were two ones that I really liked. In terms of creating the right environment, and then communicating it effectively, and at the end of it, getting an agreement.
Exactly. Yeah.
There was also something you told us, in terms of the tools, we were also to focus on what is good first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always focus on what is good, yeah, and not using our own standards to judge people. Yeah, very true. I like that. Yeah. Create a right environment. Look at the emotions, strike it while it's still hot. You know, maybe not there. Look at the emotions of the other person, your own emotions. Be ready to use emotional intelligence, apply emotional intelligence at all levels of your feedback sessions. And also overall use your emotional intelligence when you're leading in many fronts. I think that cannot be underrated or underestimated as leaders. Okay, great. Thank you. Expectations for today? Today, what are we looking at? What are we looking at gaining, learning? It's a build-up. Okay, great. I'd like us to recap the scenarios. If you can see my screen, let me just put it in screen share mode. Okay, so this one we were looking at the scenarios of feedback. Negative feedback, positive feedback, destructive feedback. We looked at two scenarios. One was for Terry. The other one was for Jane. I would like us to look at other scenarios before I come to coaching and counseling in fact, let me just trick up on this part of whatever, managing performance and behavior. And we did highlight in depth what behavior is, how we come up with behaviors, what are some of the standard behaviors we should ascribe as human beings. You know, they're practiced all over the world globally. You know, there are things that unify people, but of course we can also bring up behaviors from our values in the organization and say these are the kind of behaviors with this value, this is how you're supposed to behave, and really re-emphasize them so that you're able to use them as a tool for performance. That's very important, because we know that performance, when things are tangible, you know that they are much more practical. It's easy for you to be able to evaluate compared to behavior. So when you have pointed them out, and this is how they pointed them out and put a criteria on how we are going to evaluate those behaviors, then when you're coming to do the actual evaluation or give feedback, you are not struggling, because you already have a framework on how it's supposed to be done. So there's no you did, you said, I said, you did, you know, everybody trying to defend their position, and you end up not having any healthy discussion. Okay, so feedback is an integral part of managing performance and behaviors. These sessions can be conducted formally or informally. In both cases, the required skill sets are the same. And you remember where I said that when we have conversations in the office, when we have cordial working relationships, when there are no undercurrents, those conversations, you know, I can throw in a feedback, you know, and say, hey, boss, you know, this is what's happening. And I saw that it's not working well. What would be the matter? Can we discuss it? You know, are you struggling in this, whatever? But there are sometimes when it calls for formal feedback, you know, and feedback is not just, well, you haven't done, you didn't do, you are not doing, you know, even just formal settings of saying, we are so happy with your performance. I would like to meet you at 3 o'clock in the morning in a certain boardroom or in a certain room in the certain office in the office block or complex, and let's discuss that, you know, and also let people know what the agenda is. Not just saying, oh, meet me at 3 o'clock in my office, you know, set the agenda. I'll be giving you feedback on the work that you have just concluded. I'll be giving you feedback on XYZ, you know, and please come ready. And maybe these are the pointers we'll be talking about. So people don't feel ambushed. And that's how you continue creating cordial working relationships. Okay, great. So coaching and counseling, something that I so love and enjoy, you know, coaching and counseling. So what is coaching? What is counseling? Coaching and counseling are the next stages in constructive feedback. You know, we want to make sure that we're able to let people know that there is an intervention that you can use. Perhaps you're not able to sort out everything. So the gaps in knowledge, skills, and behavior, which are required to bridge the gap between the actual and the desired performance level, to identify and manage. The manager then offers and arranges, helps bridge this gap. So we all know about counseling, you know, and there's some things that are brought to your office and you just think, oh my gosh, how will I solve this issue? It's not even in my space to be able to to be able to solve this problem. It's too big. I do not understand what I'm supposed to be doing. And you can clearly see that this is a counseling issue, and it needs to be handled by experts. So if in organization, maybe you have counselors internally, then you're able to maybe point it out and say, well, I suggest that this problem is referred to an expert, and the expert is XYZ. If you don't have counselors internally, then what you would do is maybe in your wellness programs or in your medical schemes, then you know that, well, you can go and see a counselor. Do not try to solve issues that you are not an expert in, especially things around counseling, things to do with people wellness, people with people's emotions, which are deeply entrenched, and they are making them lose how their productivity and stuff like that. You need to dig deeper and give the intervention to the right person. However, in coaching, and that's what, because coaching is a process of empowering people to reach their full potential. Every manager should at least understand what coaching is, so that they use the coaching aspect to be able to lead their teams, to empower their teams, to grow their teams, and to make sure that it is sustainable. So when we use coaching at the workplace, it's a strong enabler for us to drive productivity, for us to reinforce behavior, for us to build on our culture, because people come up with their own solutions. I don't have a solution, compared to someone who tells you, this is how it is done, this is how it is done, let me give you a solution. You do not understand, you have seen me doing it all the time, those kind of conversations. Think around a boss who comes and tells you, hey, you've brought this, you would like us to discuss this. What have you thought about it? What are some of the things that you would be able to do if I gave you 2 days to think about it? Are you able to solve it on your own? Bring ideas for us to be able to discuss. I think you would feel more encouraged and more empowered. And if that's the style of that manager, those teams have better successes, better outcomes, and they are more motivated. The boss lets us do what we want to do. We become so creative, we become so agile, we become more attentive to details, and we want to succeed. So I always encourage that every organization should look at coaching as one of the strong bases for empowering managers to be able to lead teams. And because the thing is that I don't have solutions. We all have solutions to what we are doing. You are an expert in this area. How about you going to look for 2 solutions? Come, let's discuss and let's take the best that there is, and having those conversations and continuously making sure that people are bringing those solutions to the fore instead of you always doing that. So it's a form of feedback, and feedback is one of the principles for coaching. And also a manager is expected to give feedback. And for you to be able to give feedback, you must be a good listener. Most of us are not good listeners. It takes time to practice the listening skills. And yesterday we also said to the said and to the unsaid, the verbal and the non-verbal, how do we communicate to others? So it's important for us to be able to listen. It's important for us to win people's trust, so that people can share confidential information with us, and they know that indeed they will not hear it in the coffee room the following day. We must whatever. At the same time, it also calls for us to be able to hold companies' information confidential, in confidence. Confidentiality calls for every area. If it's not time for us to share the information that we know is still being worked on, then please don't share. Even if you're my best friend and we have a very good working relationship, I should not share. You should be able to respect that personal space and personal boundary. So that is how we create systems. That's how we create processes. That's how we create strong cultures around working with people, because it's people who make the wheel go round. So I didn't want to lose that one. So who will read for us in area 3? Any question there? Any question? Any question? Okay. We read for us in area 3, please, before we move to the new things of the day. This is in the area of giving feedback, like the one for Terry and Jane.
Hello.
Anyone can unmute themselves.
Hello. Hello.
Hi. Yes, I can hear.
Yes, Catherine, how are you?
Good, and you?
I'm fine. This is Grace.
Yes, Grace.
I'm reading scenario 3.
Mhm.
Susan operates a checkout in a department store.
Mhm.
She was trained to use the cash register, but she is making mistakes processing checks.
Mhm.
John, her supervisor, decides that some coaching would be appropriate. She demonstrates what needs to be done to deal with the checks and then asks Susan to have a go. Susan makes same mistakes and John says, no. You have done it wrong once again. You must watch closely and concentrate on what you are doing. Let us show you again. Can I continue?
Yes, please. Yeah.
What do you think? Yes, a pretty dire piece of feedback. And then let us look at the problems with the next slide.
Okay.
That is what I'm able to say.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for Grace for reading it out for us. What do you think the problem is?
According to me,
Mhm.
Susan is not taking keen of what she has been coached to do. That is about the coaching and the mentorship that you were just talking about. And it needs more time and more coaching space that she may be able to take note of the mistakes that she has been doing outside what she has been taught to do. Yes.
Okay. Someone else? This scenario, feedback, the problem around coaching.
Yeah, I think I've forgotten some bit. Susan has not been able to give feedback on what challenges she may be having concerning the keeping of the cash book.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Ruth, you need to mute, please.
She needs to communicate to the supervisor what problem she's undergoing so that she can be helped. Yes.
Yeah. True. Someone else? Let's unpack the problem. What kind of feedback has John given to Susan in this scenario? Is it constructive? Is it negative? Is it positive? Will it help Susan be able to work on the cash register much better? Please unmute yourselves. Yeah.
Catherine?
Yeah.
My name is Sarah.
Yeah. Hi, Sarah.
Okay. Okay. I feel it's not constructive because first of all, he makes her back go up by saying, no, you've done it wrong once again. Yeah, he should have just said, okay, not like this. We need to do it like this. But to tell her you've done it wrong once again could make her really insecure and defensive.
Very true. Thank you, Sarah. No. And don't we like to use that word all the time? Especially maybe to our children, the ones who have children, small children. No, please don't do it. It's not done like this, And they're just trying to be in their best element, show you the best. You just think, oh, no, it cannot be. And it extends even at the workplace. No. You've done it wrong again. Even look at the explanation marks. The tone of voice that has been used here will not give anybody confidence to try to want maybe to work with John, perhaps, or even just produce work for John. And when you are doing work with John, you're thinking, oh my gosh, how am I doing it right? What's going to happen? Yeah. Thank you, Priscilla, and thank you, Grace and Sarah. Someone else unpack the problem and feedback.
Catherine, I think John John is a boss who, when you're working with, you've got to be careful because he looks irritative from his tone and the way he says, you've done it wrong once again. Nobody feels nice when they are told like that. There's a better way to rephrase that sentence. And then you must, that word must, watch closely and concentrate. It looks like he's taking her like a child. He's taking Susan like a child who is a don't care, and the way he's addressing her, he's not addressing her in a language which is friendly in the office. And then as for Susan, Susan is like, it's like she's a carefree person because we see from the first paragraph, she's been coached on what to do. And it's like she's been coached many times. And that is what is making John irritable. And it's like Susan does not ask questions. And that's why she's repeating the same kind of mistakes. My understanding of that. Yeah. Thank you.
Now we've introduced Susan as a carefree, don't care attitude. Maybe she doesn't pay attention to details. Maybe that's why mistakes are happening. John gets irritated very fast. He has no patience. He will come and whatever. Can you imagine? Maybe it's you can see this is a clothes store, and maybe the other cashiers are there, and John comes and says, make the same mistakes again. No. And the other cashiers are thinking, oh no, poor Susan, you at it again. Okay. Someone else? How would John have phrased it? Yeah.
Okay, for me, I'm focusing on Susan. The way you just brought it out that she has been coached many times and the same problem is recurring. I would think she could be having an underlying problem that is making her behave the way she is behaving, not because she wants to make mistakes, but could be there's something that's happening at home or wherever that is making her do those errors. She may not be doing them intentionally. So I think it's good to focus on the root issue of why is she making the errors.
Yeah, we can focus on the root issues as to why she's making the errors, and maybe find that, well, things are not well with her in her areas of life that needs maybe to be addressed. I want us to think about coaching and what we highlighted, what I have highlighted, what coaching is, in a very helicopter view around. I'll empower you to do it, look for a solution, two-way traffic communication. We listen more. We let people find their own solutions. Someone else, what in your ideal situation, put yourself in John's shoes. How would you have treated Susan when you gave her this feedback? Maybe using also the 10 tools, bring everything that we know now about feedback. One more person. So let's go to the next slide so that we recap it and we just see around coaching. So the problem is John gives no specific information to Susan on what mistake has been made. There is no clear indication of what should be done differently. No standards are given for processing checks. There is no two-way communication. Can we unpack this around, you see? Maybe the case, it doesn't tell us in details, but when you look at it, maybe she's just joined and this is how it is done. There's no procedure manual. Can we identify ourselves when we give a new task to an employee in the office? Do we give specific information? when people produce work, or you just look at it half the time, and sometimes I just don't even blame people. The demands of the business, the pressure that is heaped on everybody in the organization is so much. All what we are looking is, this work is not ready for consumption to the next person. You've done all these mistakes. We don't take time to debrief and say, okay, let me look at it. I'm not sure. Maybe what can we do better? But all what we are doing is looking for mistakes. And some people in the organization have perfected the act of looking for mistakes, which are not even there. Even when you've not dotted the I and crossed the T, in terms of putting a comma here and a full stop there, the world won't die. You just say, okay, fine, here, next time, please pay a bit of more attention to details, because what we want to do is perfect work, especially anytime, whether it's being consumed internally or externally. We need to be very aware that needs to be done. So let's be very focused on that area of not looking for mistakes, but when mistakes occur, let's be more gentle in how we communicate to others. There's no clear indication on what needs to be done differently. You could ask Susan, these mistakes keep recurring. What do you think you can do differently? Susan can think through, maybe when I process the checks late in the afternoon, I'm already so tired. These errors are bound to happen. How about me processing them first thing in the morning, if the system allows? Or Susan can come up and say, I see that perhaps because I'm working with all these colleagues near and we are all talking and everybody is trying to serve customers, I tend not to concentrate. How about me going to a different room and doing my work where I can concentrate and there's no noise? Remember the environment, even at work, the environment need to be conducive for me to be able to perform. Some people will not work with music. Some people don't mind if the music is blaring. Some people will not want a lot of brightness in the office. Some people will want more brightness in the office. So let's try have standards around what we can do to accommodate levels of how people would want to work. Let's create an ideal working environment. And if we know that it's open plan and someone needs to concentrate, how about putting up some rooms that people can go and concentrate? Coaching. What can you do differently? Ask her. There are no standards given for processing checks. This is how you do it. You need to process checks. You need to put standards. You need to prove whatever. There was no two-way communication. Why was there no two-way communication? Someone? No two-way communication. And we said communication is key to everything.
Hi, Madam Catherine.
Hi, morning.
Jambo.
Morning.
There's no two-way communication because it seems like a directive from Mr. John. Yeah. It seemed like an 844 class. You're told do this and close. That's why I feel it's not two-way.
Yeah, two-way. Susan was not given the opportunity to feedback and give her opinion and also maybe voice her frustration or her challenge and what it is. This is a real Taifa Hall lecture, that lecture that I told you guys about. You do what I'm saying. Okay. So that's where we are. So let's look at another. Counseling is a different process from coaching. In coaching, the reviewer guides the individual. In counseling, the emphasis is to explore issues and help the individual come up with his or her own solution. And that's what we were looking at, trying to get whatever to help Susan come up with her own solution. So basically, let's always remember, how are you doing against the standards? What are the standards? What should they change to meet the standards? What should change to meet the standards? How long do we have to improve? What support are we expected from you? You remember that one yesterday? Okay, great. A last scenario. We read for us. Scenario 4. Sharon, the manager, and Brannon.
Let me read.
Brannon. Yeah, thank you, Priscilla.
Sharon is a new employee at ABC Corporation. Her work is of high order, but her attitude is not. She is short-tempered and is often very irritable with her colleagues. Brano, her supervisor, realizes that this is good. This is good neither for Sharon. Brano, her supervisor, realizes that this is good neither for Sharon nor her colleagues. He talks to Sharon. Hi, Sharon. I am very happy with the quality of your work. However, on occasions, I have seen you speak very kindly with your colleagues. For example, when David asked you for the budget file yesterday, you told him that you were too busy to look for it and then went back to your work.
Thank you. Went back to your work. Let's continue with the scenario. Have to keep doing that. Yeah.
I continue.
No. Let's unpack the scenario. What do we think? Anyone?
Catherine, may I go? Catherine?
Yes, yeah, please go. Looking at my notes.
Okay, I think this is constructive feedback when we compare to what was the previous case study.
Yeah.
This one starts to identify what the issues are, and it's important because when somebody is pointed to what is wrong, then there's a possibility of remedial. I think it is constructive.
Constructive feedback, yeah, because the manager has pointed out what has happened. Yeah. Someone else? How would Sharon take it?
Hi, Catherine, can I go?
Yes.
Yeah, I like the way Brano brings up the environment. His tone makes Sharon relax. And then he's positive. He begins with a positive situation. I'm very happy. That, of course, lightens Sharon. And then he's able to pinpoint a particular scenario that, for example, when David asked you about the budget line, that eases. I love the environment. I love the way he draws Sharon out. So she's able to respond, to give, and he also gives direction as you go to the next point. Thank you.
Exactly. Yeah, very true. Very specific, good way of discussing. I'm happy, like what both of you have said, and this is the area that we think this is the problem, and this is how you would solve it. Yeah, if we had this kind of conversations at the workplace, it would be much more productive. People would be happier, productivity would go up, motivation would increase. So how do you think Sharon would react? Already we see that she's got, but her attitude is not. She's got a bad attitude. She's short-tempered and often very irritable with her colleagues. Want to re-emphasize on behavior, good work. How would you also help Sharon long-term to come out of her short-temperedness, call it impatient, irritable? How would you help this kind of people? And yesterday we tried to, these people always very defensive. How can we help these people in the organization? Very good work, but never team players. They come crashing everybody, nearly crashing the whole building. But their work is sterling. They're the ones who bring the sales in the organization. They're the ones who whatever, but I was making team playing. And we still keep them, we still accommodate them in the business. Why do we do that? Is it because we are fearful of them? Is it if we let them go, the business is going to collapse?
Catherine, may I?
Yes, Veronica.
You remember Sharon is a new employee. So Sharon may not be knowing the culture of this company, company. So the team should just come and take her through the culture. Pole pole, you know, you never know what Sharon had gone through from the previous company. You cannot just force her to do things that you want, not knowing what she's gone through. Maybe she has suffered, so she needs to heal first, and now learn the new culture of the new organization. Okay.
New employee.
Yes. Thank you.
Induction, orientation, I agree in terms of what it is. New employee, you become new for how long? You stop becoming new. Let me just tell you, the moment you put an application to that company. So new, of course, new, but in the real world of work now, people who are aspiring to join organizations, the moment you put in that application, and yesterday we talked about it around, let's make sure that where we want to go and work, we have researched who they are. Do our values seem to match, mix and match? Am I okay there? Is the business they do, does it work well within my beliefs, my traditions and everything? Then I can apply. Is this work interesting for me? Do I think that the money that they are going to give me, my total compensation, I will be happy with? Apply for the job. You start becoming new. However, of course, new is new. You have to go in, you have to learn the work, you have to learn the culture. But when you already understand, you understand who you are and you have researched all those things, the chances of you getting into conflict are very minimal. However, we need to have the duty of care to look after the employees. If there's anything that is a problem, if there's anything that we need to help them with, it is very important for us to be able to pick them up and point them up, and in this way of constructive feedback. So very, very important. Someone else? Let's go back to the employees who are tried and tested, as we like to call them. Super performers, bad team players, poor team players, or even bad team players.
Sharon, Catherine, sorry.
Yeah.
I think, okay, giving her time is okay. And I don't think when we are employed, we should feel like we are being forced to do anything. I think Sharon on her own, she has a problem, because this short-temperedness and being irritable, that's within a person. It's a person who decides, or it's something within us. So I think for Sharon, she will need maybe counseling. Her supervisor may recommend counseling for her. You there? Hello?
Yes, I'm there.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, counseling maybe for her.
Counseling for her. Counseling for her. I totally agree. On a larger front, will we take all those people who we? I'm just flipping up the. I'm flipping a little bit more and saying, are we able to? How do we work with these people who are super performers, but they're bad team players? Even telling them to go for counseling, they say, I don't have a problem. I'm bringing in results. What do you guys want me to do? And you can't let me go. You can't tell me I am bad attitude. Tell me where the bad attitude is. We don't have such people in the organization, or we are all these of us, the 50 of us on this webinar. We are the ones, and nobody can tell us anything.
No, Catherine, I think I would suggest that if we do have a coaching program, that we could refer them to a coach so that we've identified a particular area, and they just are encouraged to be coached to improve.
I totally agree. Constant communication, pinpointing that, re-emphasizing, you bring very good sales, you are a super performer, we like the way you perform your work. What are some of the other things that we need you to work on to make sure that you don't lose out on all these opportunities? People shy away to work from you. You use words that really make them feel that they need to be reflective. And when you say, well, want to take you for coaching, or coaching is important for you, they must also understand coaching. And maybe if there are any coaches on this webinar, they'll know that if you take people for coaching and they're not ready for coaching, they look at you and say, HR brought me here. I don't know what they want me to do. I hear you can coach me, so coach me, and because coaching is a partnership, it's a journey for us to be able to work together, for you to reach potential, to get your own solutions in whatever challenge that you're facing, or things that you're aspiring to do. It becomes very difficult. But as a good coach, you flip it over and you make them see the importance and how coaching will help them to be better team players, better managers, better supervisors, whatever it is. Yeah, great. Yeah. And you hope that indeed that they are going to improve. Well, sometimes it's very difficult, very, very difficult. And I also know it's very difficult around people who own their own businesses, where they have no, well, they feel that it's mine. There's nothing you can do. But remember, you're only successful through people. And we saw that during COVID, where people said, well, this is how you've treated us. We'll not come back to you. When things are better, we'll never come back to you. And sometimes some organizations lost very good people because of the way that they let people go. They were not forthright. They did not communicate well. Indeed, business was difficult, but they just let people go. They lost that goodwill. So when you call me back and say, well, would you like to come? Say no, the ship set sail. Okay. Any comments there? Any comments? Any comment?
I'm just thinking.
Yeah.
The first instant is to ask Sharon how she's getting on, and hear how she's finding the work environment. And then let her speak first, and then ask her, is there anything personal that is going on in your life that is not going on too well? After you talked about the work, then tell her you're manifesting symptoms of irritability, and you want to work with a team. Could there be something else that is an underlying issue that you'd like to share?
Yeah, very true.
Because sometimes you may find maybe even the colleagues have also been nasty to her previously, especially the younger age group. They have this thing of mchongoano all the time.
Yeah, they're terrible. What could be the problem? And they don't know how to accommodate each other. And that's why working across different generations, I think the older generation, they have seen and maybe had it all. They would make very good mentors to the younger ones. And of course, we also appreciate that there's now much more reverse mentoring in what people are doing. Okay. Rispa, I see your hand up. Please unmute.
Hi, Catherine.
Hi.
My feedback, or maybe a question, is a similar scenario like Sharon. In the case where it's just the employee with a bad attitude and is not able to work with the rest of the team, how long can an organization go on in trying to support her and get her to change her attitude? You've done one-on-one meetings, given feedback, brought in external coaches. How long can you actually sustain this before you tell her we can no longer work together?
Very good question.
I have a scenario like that we've done a year of talking and we are stuck.
You're stuck. Wow, stuck with them. Yeah. Is their work super good? Over excellent?
The work has been good.
Yeah.
I can't complain on that, but no one wants to approach her.
No one wants to work. Do they manage a team?
We've actually moved the team away from her.
So she's teamless.
Right now she's teamless, but her work is super good.
Oh,
she's able to pull up her weight and everybody else's. But it's becoming a big problem for everyone. You know, those people you want to, by the time you ask a question, you've thought of so many options of how to ask her and how to phrase it, because there's a way you might just ask her and tick her off. That's a kind of scenario. So how long as an organization can you sustain this before you tell her you can't be part of our team anymore?
Can't work with us anymore? And what will be the reason for separation? You know, looking into all those legal aspects and stuff and everything. Anyone, how long should we work with? We've tried everything. And how can we separate with such people? Constant, we've given feedback. We want the best for you. What should we do?
I think Sharon is a new employee. So yesterday we talked about striking when it's hot. So the first time you're gentle, but the second time now you make it more firm. You need to have a professional way of working with each other. We have talked about it before. Let's try and maintain amicable relationships in the office. However, for the case that we have been given, if you keep skirting around this person and moving the team away from her, then in the event that one time she decides to turn back on you, she'll say that you kept her for so long and then you're terminating her and you're on a witch hunt. So it will not work out very well for you. And with this sort of people, another thing is to document very objectively. Otherwise, you can land yourself in a lot of trouble, and other people are watching and seeing the person get away with it.
So documenting is one way of course, I think the window of opportunity is always around probation, and that's why we should take probation very seriously to find out whether this person is a good fit for us. You can do everything at the interview level, recruitment level, all those things that you're finding out, and you feel that, well, this person is a good fit, they'll come and work well. But within the probation period, we never just master the art and become experts in finding out who this person really is in terms of fitting in the team, in terms of fitting in our culture and being able to do the work. We should pay extra care in terms of that, because it gives you an opportunity either to have that discussion, give the feedback as it is, maybe give them a room to improve. Let's not wait within the last 2 weeks of 3 months to be able to tell them, no, it's not working. How about breaking it down? The first 3 weeks, you've settled in, how you doing and whatever. After that, the job description, the KPIs have been given. Every 2 weeks, you are looking into it. You are asking for feedback. They're giving you feedback. Then if you know it's not working, strike the iron when it's still hot. You have no court case. Let them go. Sounds bad, but it's an easy way out. So this person has come 2 years into the job. You guys are working on eggshell. How long? You are documenting. Of course, documenting is very important. We had this meeting with you that day, So how long should we stay with them before we let them go? And how can we let them go within the legal framework of us not taking us to court? Let's help each other here. What can we do? What should we do? How long should we take?
Catherine, can I?
Yeah.
I think every organization has a laid down code of conduct. And I'm not sure if this organization has a code of conduct, which just basically has all the values you espouse and basically the rule of engagement, even if you're working, no matter how superstar you are in your work. I don't know in the process of the feedback she's given, whether there's a time frame, say we are putting ABCD interventions, we're bringing in coaches, these are the outcomes we are expecting, this is what we need to see within a given time frame, whether she's been given that. Because if we don't meet the code of conduct of the organization, then it's just give the notice to the person to leave.
Yeah, thank you, Jane. Put it very well. One of the things that we are so timid, and I'll say that without fear, you can take it to the bank, is that we never want to say the consequences of you not towing the line. The consequences are this, this, and this, prescribed in our handbook, prescribed in the law, and this is the criteria that we are going to use to make sure that if you don't do this, we'll be separating. Those are difficult conversations, you know, very deep. And I'm not saying that because I'm good at it. I also just think, why can't you just do what is expected and everybody goes happy in the evening, whistling away, and everybody comes whistling back to the office the following day? So whether we are working remotely, we know some companies which have always worked remotely, even before the pandemic, and or whether we are working in the office and stuff like that. How about us having those conversations around consequences? If this does not happen, this is the consequence. If this does not happen, these are the consequences, and we will let you go. From the very beginning, you know, when it's now, we've had a soft landing, we're saying we are out to help you, we've made all the interventions, start talking about consequences. And consequences lead to termination of your employment, unless they really don't care about the employment. I believe people have the opportunity to change. Yeah, I see Rhoda's hand is up. Rhoda, you can unmute yourself.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm good, thanks.
Thanks. Now, I want to put my 2 cents on that issue. I am just wondering, for how long are they contemplating of going on with the same scenario? Because if they have literally like pulled everyone from our team, like you said, right now she's teamless. Okay, for how long? And don't you think that it is a bad culture, quote unquote, that they are breeding into the organization? Because the other people are watching, there is nothing that is being done about it. And it may become, I am afraid, it may become a culture that so and so did it and you did nothing. So, you know, and then it may even now become like a victimization issue when you do it to someone else, when you have taken so long to deal with this one. My question is just for how long? And just be cautious that it may be a bad culture that you're breeding in the company. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, you see the long-term effects of putting up with bad behavior, and it rubs onto the other people. People start feeling demotivated. There's nothing that they can do, and they let her stay. And if I do that, then I will be let go, or let me do it. After all, there's nothing. I'll point it. You didn't do it to Catherine. Why are you doing it to me? You get what I mean? So I think starting to talk around documenting, looking at your internal policy, looking at the labor law policy, having those discussions, you know, I would actually now start, if I was the one and it's so, we want to help you. The last thing is now start putting her on performance improvement plan. Let's have a performance improvement plan around set criteria. So remember, it's behavior, and behavior is difficult. And that's why if you don't have specific behaviors which are anchored from your values and how those behaviors are supposed to be lived, and point out instances where she has not lived them and how it has affected the team and the business in totality, these are the consequences. Again, they are that gross misconduct, what we call all those kind of conducts that can whatever, can let you go. So I think it's important. I hope that will help you start documenting, look at the criteria, put on a performance improvement plan. If 3 months is not whatever, at least you have tried. And I hope all over time you've been documenting and whatever, but let it be objective, let it be transparent, and also make sure that you have the support of the CEO, that they really know what is happening, or senior management, whoever needs to know at that level, so that you're not working in isolation. And of course, the supervisor is the one to lead those discussions, and you are coming in as HR, as the technical person, to re-emphasize and say, this is it, and this is what's going to happen, and this is how we are going to evaluate month on month, or 2 weeks, fortnightly, or whatever, monthly, until the 3rd month. Then the 3rd month, if nothing, oh yeah, give that letter. Anyone else who would say anything different from what we have said? Is that useful? Useful? Anyone? Do you think it can work? Who had raised that? I didn't see your name. Didn't get your name.
Catherine,
yeah,
that's me. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Everyone else as well for the feedback.
Yeah, okay. Good luck. We hope it works, and we are here to support you. If you're in the Telegram group of ACHRP, you can always drive that discussion there, and we can always support and add our 2 cents. I mean, I think it has 3,000 people. You can have over reviews. You can put it as a scenario case study. What would you do, without dropping names and stuff like that? It always works. I see a lot of discussion, and you can be able to pick up very good further discussions from there. Okay, great. We'll skip the scenarios there, so that now we get to the whatever. Those were the 10 tools, and we did analyze the current situation. I will not go through them again. They're there on your LMS, so you can always go through there and seek solutions. It's what, okay, so we can do some scenarios on giving feedback. Okay, who'd like to read for us?
I can.
Yes, thank you, Polycarp.
Henry is working as a production manager at Troll Apparels. He is responsible for preparing the performance appraisals and giving feedback to his subordinates. Yeah. Let us see how we use the tools effectively and gives feedback constructively.
Okay.
So we have Thomas, employee 1, employee 2 is Mr. Kidd, and then Mr. Andrew, employee 3.
Thank you. Okay. Employee 1.
Okay. Employee 1, Thomas. Yes, Henry, you're right. Yes, Henry, you are right. We know that I already have adequate theoretical training, but if you could give a little bit more of practical training, it will help me a lot. So I'll go right.
Yeah.
Based on the color code. But I observe that sometimes your production levels are below targets. I have a suggestion to correct this. If I provide you with more training in certain technical aspects, you can definitely reach our organizational objectives. So hi Thomas, I hope you might have gone through your appraisal report. Can we discuss it tomorrow? And on the left, Thomas, thanks so much. Then there's sure, Henry, I am ready. I'm happy to see that you have completed 6 months here and you have very good attitude and commitment. I know it's all jumbled up.
Yeah, it's all jumbled up. So who's the supervisor?
Thomas the employee, so Henry is the supervisor.
Yeah. So Henry is giving feedback to
Mr. Thomas.
Thomas, yeah. So how has he framed it in terms of giving feedback for his performance? Has he done well? Has he used the tools? Do you think that Thomas has the impetus to be able to improve?
If I can,
yes.
I think he has, just from the first brief of his statement. There's a bit of acknowledgement in the gap yeah, and he actually reaches out to the LM for practical training. He has adequate theoretical training, but he needs on-job training. That's what my understanding from practical training. And also the fact that the line manager is reaching out on the same to discuss appraisals. That is, he wants to detail the scope so that Mr. Thomas understand the scope from the word go.
I hope that you have gone through your appraisal report. You know, do you have those managers who really just send appraisal reports 4 minutes before the scheduled time, and you have not even gone through whatever and call you and they've already just judged it? But Henry has really done a good job there. So let's let me just put up the next slide so that whatever. Let's continue. Polycarp.
Your quality of work is also good. Keep this up. At the same time, you have to pay a little more attention to quantitative output. Our objective is to produce 1,000 shots this month. Your role is important in achieving this. Please do not let me know. Please do let me know if you need any assistance towards this. I am marginally short of this target. With a little bit of support and training from senior staff, I can definitely touch 1,000 shots this month. Then Mr. Henry, sure, I could possibly arrange a personal trainer for you who will help you to achieve the target. Thanks, Henry. I was sure of getting this sort of help from you and the organization. I promise continuous progress from my side.
Okay. Just can we wrap up that in terms of giving feedback using the 10 tools? How is this conversation? What kind of relationship does do the two have? And in terms of target for work and Thomas reassurance to Henry and Henry reassurance to Thomas. Anyone? Is this what happens, or this is just lives in utopia? Perfect scenarios.
This is good on PowerPoint, but we hope it reflects on ground. But just from yesterday's session about so the main output we want to see is basically agreement to a set solution. By the mere fact that Mr. Thomas mentioned that I was sure of getting this sort of help from your organization, I promise continuous progress from my side.
Yeah,
that is engagement from the staff.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. It looks good on PowerPoint, no doubt. I totally agree. Things are different on the ground, like what we would like to say. Mambo ni different kwa ground.
Catherine, may I go? Hello. Hello. Have we lost Catherine? Or is it my end?
I think we've lost her. I can't hear her either.
Huh?
I can't
Yeah,
hear
we've lost her.
I can't see her nor hear her.
Yeah, she's lost. We lost her.
I think she's lost. Yeah.
She shall be found soon. Probably a power issue. Can we have a discussion as we go, as we wait for her? Hello. Wow, okay.
I can hear you. Yes, we can have a discussion.
I think I wanted to respond to Polycarp. I think it's possible to have a good performance appraisal. We tend to call them continuous discussions on performance. They are not an event. But I think there has to be willingness on the parties that are discussing. I think for us, we don't write a report that first, and then once we have discussed points brought about by both parties, then the report is written, and since it's online, there's a section for the employee to also input their responses. So it's not only on PowerPoint, good on PowerPoint, it can actually be well cultivated if that's the culture of the organization, where there is continuous feedback, continuous discussion on performance, and it's not used to victimize or now I have the moment to bring you down kind of situation. So I believe it can really happen.
Maybe Jane, you can tell us, is it tied to rewards?
Yes, our performance is tied to rewards. So we have reward related pay. So depending on the outcomes, then there's rewards in it. So we have point system. We have point system, and there are various factors. We don't only evaluate the deliverables. We also have values and how you espouse those values, because deliverables are the how, are the what you're supposed to deliver, the KPIs as people call them. But our values and behaviors is what we call the how you deliver that. Like the case study we had, you could be very good, a star performer. Well, that is the KPIs and the deliverables, but the behavior, the attitude, the values, which is the how, is really low. So you have to score favorably on both aspects.
That's exactly the same thing we do. It's not an event, by the way. It's normally a very serious exercise because we do it twice a year, at the middle of the financial year and at the end of the financial year. And 70% is your technical deliverables, but 30% is actually about your values. You are not just delivering results, it's the how are you delivering those results? Are you delivering with respect? Are you delivering within the core values, which is integrity, getting it right the first time, taking accountability for your actions? It's not just about the technical deliverables. The core values must come into play. So sometimes you find an employee has scored so well on what we call the KRAs, but when it comes to his attitude and how he's delivering it, it is also measured, and you find that they fail on that. And overall, your salary increment is based on both how you have delivered your KRAs and those KRAs as a percentage to your score. It's not just about the technical deliverables.
A question I could ask the group is that you then deliberate the scores, because there's also that, what is it called? A standardization process where people then go into the room and then just make sure that the scores are then reevaluated, and sort of you then get a standard deviation curve and sort of force feed some of those particular entries.
You're
calibration.
very right.
It's called normalization.
We call it calibration.
Normalization. Sorry. From our end, we call it normalization. And we will look at the high scorers and the low scorers, and we ask ourselves the tough questions for the high scorers and the low scorers. We have a team that evaluates those high scorers and low scorers.
Yes, we also do have, it's called a calibration process. And the calibration process looks at all the feedback from the 360 as well. So it's not just a line manager, line managee discussion. So they are all put into play. And we look at all, even the middle, let's say the three performer, three is a good performer, because there's some people who are good at giving people just a good performer, yet we know because we work in a matrix structure that they're actually star performers. Why would we know a star performer who in our matrix and cross-working in other departments is getting a 3 instead of a higher score? So we look at everything, not just high and low.
Someone else, how you calibrate your results? Sorry, guys, I was thrown out. I don't know. I'm trying to tether now from my phone, so there might be some downtime. So please just bear with me. Appreciate, yeah, and thanks for taking the discussion further. This is sign of a good engagement. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah. So why do we calibrate? Why don't we just get the scores for? Why don't we just get the scores? This is what Catherine has scored, 3.5. Jane has scored 4. And why do we take the time to calibrate results? Is it because we don't trust what the line managers have said and the second line manager as the gospel truth, as the final scores, and award appropriately depending on how our bonus scheme is calculated?
Well, Catherine.
Yeah.
Can I say something? This is Rhoda.
Yeah.
Well, I am listening at the discussions, and I am reduced to what we are calling following in other social media platforms, because I'm hearing some things here and I'm wondering where do those things happen? You know, like where I work, sometimes you find such things never happen. You just employed after you're given a letter, 3 months probation, then a letter for confirmation comes, or if your supervisor rates you otherwise, then of course you let go. And I think in most of these companies where the directors have a say in HR and management, that's where such problem comes, because you realize that this is the director is an uncle so and so, the director is a cousin so and so, you know, and it really irritates, because you see those people overstepping their mandate and doing weird things, and to some extent the HR is just reduced to a flower girl, quote unquote, that she really can't do much to them. It's like you give a letter, that letter is revoked by the directors and such things. So sometimes I listen to such things and I tell myself, well, I'm in the learning process. Personally, I don't even work in the HR department, but I have a lot of interest in HR because that is what my area of specialization in future, and I'm here to learn actually. So I tell myself, when I one day become an HR or I work in the HR department of whatever company, I will really make sure that such things I see where
we lost
for mentorship and all that. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. This is a real strong community of practice. So we are welcome. We know that, and that's why we say what we say here is there's some companies which are very good to work in, good, very people-centric, you know, and they have a very professional way of how they do things. Some companies are, you know, they need more help. But as HR people, are we brave enough to start, if it's tilted like this, to start bringing it and steady the ship? What legacy do you want to leave? That's important. And if it is so bad, sometimes, unfortunately, is that you have to look after your own self and say you want to leave. Very, very unfortunate when it comes to that. That the only thing that now that can save me and my sanity is leaving. Very, very, very unfortunate, but that happens. It could happen. It happens all the time. Okay. Okay. Thanks, Rhoda, for sharing that. We are here to support you and grow your HR experience. Someone else around calibration before we move on. Why do we calibrate? Is it fair to calibrate? And people always want to know my final score vis-a-vis what the calibration.
Let me say that it's just to make sure that the process does have a fair bit of objectivity, because each supervisor may have certain preferences and likings, and therefore the calibration process allows us to just make sure that it is evenly put together and that objectivity carries the day. Over.
Absolutely. And I believe also to identify, to accept that we do have conscious and unconscious biases as individuals, and that is normal. And this is just the second level to be able to streamline that.
Sorry, have we lost Catherine again, or is it me that's lost?
No, can't hear her as well.
Yeah, we've lost her.
Can't hear as well.
Okay, something I read of interest is something that Deloitte has started to do in terms of performance management. They are trying to throw out the whole calibration process and focus on the future. I looked at the article. It's a very interesting article. When I get it, I shall share it with the group and just sort of get to hear your thoughts. They are thinking that the time they use calibrating, they could use that time. They worked it out and said that that is a huge amount of time that can be used more fruitfully to talk about improvement, performance improvement on the person, as opposed to looking in the past. Once I see the article, I will circulate it. Over.
It's interesting. I think that is that Jane. I think that's interesting. You've said that. We are trying to actually come up with a new performance process as well, and stop the kind of what do I say? What we've been having for the past few years, and it's kind of targeted towards that. And we are stopping to have the mid-year reviews and the end of year reviews, and having what we call your monthly catch-ups with your line manager. You're able to capture it on the system as discussions, and those discussions, about 10 in a year, will just form into discussing career options, discussions for the coming year. And basically, I think it's kind of aligned to that. It's kind of aligned to that future looking, instead of just concentrating too much on the past. It's lessons learned. What do we do from the lessons learned? How do we improve moving forward?
Interesting. Thanks for sharing. I read the article and I thought it's interesting. And if the Big Fours are thinking that line, I thought they must have done quite a bit of research to get to that position. Over.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, every time someone tries to get me on the phone or something, yeah, this is the one time testing. Anyway, yeah. And also, we will thanks Jane for I picked some of the discussion towards the end around need for calibration, having constant feedback, so that it's not too formal and it's not too, people don't feel that I'm being boxed. You know, feedback is difficult, evaluations are difficult, and also the people who sit in that committee are objective, they're representative from all departments, and they tend to interact with people all the time. So they can actually give very objective feedback around Catherine's performance for that year. And one of the things that we should be very careful to note is that how come Catherine was a star performer last year, all those years, all of a sudden what has happened? Have discussions around the outliers and the people who are not doing too well. I remember there are a couple of Fortune 500 companies who had started off a system of the last 5% of the business, the people who should be on PIP, performance being monitored closely, should leave the business, and they did that, and people became very demotivated, and I know that they needed to shift around. Also in my organization, we don't look at individual targets. Of course we do to a certain extent. However, it is the performance of the group and the performance of your department that will let us know that whatever, and we have seen that, because if performance of the group at the beginning of the year, it is so well articulated, we must grow the business by, let's say, by 10% or something like this, like that. We must, whatever growth, whether you are in profit making, and this can work, whether you're in the government or whether you're in the NGO sector, it has really worked around people being able to deliver, because if we don't meet the group target, and then if we do not meet the department target, Tumeisha, we must be able to participate in this cake. So it just gives an emphasis. And then after that, the cost of the merit increment, now that is what determines what have you as an individual done. So those discussions, a lot of coaching internally, you know, it's, I'm not saying that there are no challenges, there are lots of challenges, but does it make people lazy? In fact, no. You are not meeting your target. How is the group going to meet the target? So the pressure is real of wanting to deliver and to make sure that everybody can get the bonus. And of course, bonus is discretionary. It's at the whatever of management, but it's fantastic. Yeah, so that doesn't mean that, yeah, it puts more pressure, and people have also asked whether it's the right way to do it, you know, so there's always ongoing discussion around it. Are you feeling, what have you been able to achieve? What are you struggling with? And stuff like that. So conversations, yeah, feedback. So let me try and share my screen. Thank you for your indulgence. I appreciate. Anything else would like to share there? Things that we might have lost and missed out? Anything? Bonus, everybody feels happy when they, whatever. I know a friend of mine who called me the other day and told me, hey, when the calibration was done, my rating was reduced, you know, and guess what? I didn't get the bonus, and this bonus is what I had planned to do A, B, and C. So pretty disappointing. And they were asking me whether they can go and appeal. Should people appeal? And how do they know?
We have an appeal process in our ascribed to our process. We do have.
Yeah. And they can appeal, and they get heard, and they are given feedback.
Yeah, basically, of course, it's providing more justification on why the certain rating maybe it still holds. Is there new evidence of performance and achievements that was not looked at within the year? Is there more information that probably the panel did not look at or did not have at the time of doing this calibration? Because we know some line managers are not very good at articulating their achievements very well. We have people who can write 300 pages. There are those who can just write one-liners and bullet points and doesn't give maybe a lot of weight to the level of star performing and you've delivered. So yeah, so that's why this process for that.
Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I think we had lost you.
Yes, we can.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes.
You had lost me. Okay, you can. Okay, so allow me to put off my video just to give me some more stability. Is that okay? Okay, great.
Okay.
So yeah, there should be also a feedback mechanism around appeal. How do I appeal and what kind of feedback will I get and what are some of the things that we're going to look into? Yeah, makes me very unhappy to have unstable internet. So there's no power. Okay, so you want to look at a logbook, and I think this can be very helpful, and I'm sure you have
I think we've lost Catherine again.
Yeah. She seems to have quite an unstable network at the moment. Maybe I think she just said there is no power, and sometimes it becomes tricky. She's back.
Yeah, I think I have internet now back. Sorry. Oh my gosh, yeah. Sorry. I hope now it is stable.
Sorry.
So let's see.
Hi, Catherine.
Hi, how are you?
Fine. Just to let you know, we appreciate you. So just keep going. I know it can affect your
Thank you for
presentation,
that
but it's
reassurance.
okay.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
It makes a whole lot of difference. Thank you for the feedback. Positive. So this is an easy form that you can use at the workplace where you, especially when you are giving feedback, whatever form of feedback, the name, the relationship, whether you're the supervisor, what the challenging situation is all about, and then what are the outcomes and what are the reactions, especially if you're monitoring that, let's quote unquote, difficult employee who has been told many times this is what you have to do. So I think this is a good form that you can adopt at your place of work. If you don't have it, I'm sure you have mechanism for maybe giving feedback, formal feedback that needs to be recorded. At the same time, I'm sure you have mechanisms for grievance handling. You have mechanisms for PIP and those all that kind of stuff. So it's important to make sure that the document and the forms and the tools, actually the tools that you use are clear, are simple, and they are reliable for you to be able to make informed decisions, because it's the data that you need for you to be able to make informed decisions. I keep telling people, please take time to do your evaluation so well, because it's a history building, it's a system of building your history in the organization. It can be referred back. Ask for promotion, ask for training, ask to move to other projects, ask to be given more. I mean, you've documented it. So when you come and say, but I requested for this, maybe it wasn't discussed, it's time for us to discuss, so people know what you aspire to do. But of course, more open communication, saying that this is what I want to do, this is what I aspire. You remember those natural conversations on the corridors when you meet the CEO before he gets the lift to the 7th floor. Hello, boss, how are you doing? How is it going? What are you doing? What can I aspire to be? I aspire to be like you. Then they think, Sasa, you want to take my job? No, they won't think like that. If they are good people, they know that you want, maybe you can even get mentored by them or something like that. Yeah, so great. So let's look at some of the feedback situations. Although every feedback situation will be distinct, explicit. That's what we say. There are certain common reactions that pose challenges. Let us discuss some of these. You know, some people will disagree with feedback. We do know that. Some people will be uninterested and not concerned, not of my own. It will come as a shock. People get very upset and perhaps they display all sorts of emotions. Sometimes they can cry. They become very angry. You cannot see all these emojis over there. Deny your right to give feedback. Why might people disagree with feedback? Examples. Let's look at each one of them. Feedback situations, which you know, when you ask people, let me give you feedback. I disagree with your feedback. What would be the reason as to why someone can disagree with feedback generally?
Catherine? Hi, can I say something?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe just a point on why someone can disagree with the feedback. Maybe when they feel that they have done more than they are being rated, like they feel they have achieved more. That one may tend to disagree.
They have done more and you do not recognize it. Very true. This is what I have done, and you don't even recognize it. Very true. Yeah. Disagree with feedback. Yeah. And other situations where people would disagree with feedback. There are many situations. Let's share. Other situations. Yes, Rispa?
In an organization where this feedback is going to be used for, say, a promotion or a bonus or a salary increment, and the feedback is negative, most people will disagree because it's going to impact them.
Yeah, impact on what they aspire to get, promotion, you know, maybe good training opportunities, salary increment. Yeah, people might disagree with the feedback, knowing what is ahead of them or what they would want to achieve. Yeah, very true. Other circumstances, other instances where people disagree with your feedback. Other instances, please. Anyone disagrees? And when people, okay, we look at some of them. Is uninterested or not concerned? I'm not interested. My demeanor just says it all. I really don't care. Is uninterested? Which where are people uninterested in feedback or not concerned?
Maybe I can share there. When there are past cases where the feedback is not trusted, or like cases where there's calibration done, people always think maybe people use feedback moments to settle scores. And so you find they just use the feedback forms as just paper trail. And so they will not really be concerned. And in fact, they don't read. They just ask, where is it to be safe? They tick whatever needs to be ticked. They play safe. And you know, when that happens, then you're just peddling paper. There's nothing that is happening, but it comes from some history which is not good.
Yeah. Okay, previous history, whether it's real or perception, where we don't trust each other. This is just another checkbox. You know, they've always asked for this and they never implement when we do surveys in the organization, whatever surveys we might be doing, and there's no follow through. There are no action points put in place, whatever we have said. So, you know, disinterested, let me do it for it to come out of my plate. I like that term. We're only peddling paper. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah. Terrible. Terrible. Yeah. Other instances, uninterested or not concerned. these are situations you will face, we face at the workplace.
Where nothing is being done, like it is there's no action taken after the reviews, so it is like just a formality thing. You just do it, then nothing is done.
Exactly. Nothing is done. Formality, creatures of habit. This is the culture we have here. Let's do it. Let's get it out of the way. I get reaction. I am shocked. I get very upset and even sometimes cry. HR, you always have to have a box of what are those things called? Kleenex or a box of tissue over there for people to be able to use. Well, it's true. There are some very hard situations in HR. Well, not saying displaying it, but when whatever, extend it, take a moment. Why would someone get very upset or is even shocked with your feedback? Shocked.
Maybe in this area, because a lot of consultancy is used when it comes to this kind of situation, maybe to give it a third eye opinion. I've noticed that some people who have some aspects about themselves they believe in, and what comes out is something else. They don't believe you. You see, now when you are doing an objective feedback and you are telling them this is how you behave, like in peer reviews, say, like for an example, a peer review, I did one of those and the guy just looked at me like, that's not me. Then I said, it can't come from 59 people and this is the average. And we had computerized it and the guy went visibly into shock. Then he said, sasa watu wengine nikamwambia hao ni mafans zako kwa Facebook. But when it comes to feedback, this is what they actually said. And this guy went into depression for a while. And then after that, at least he was a positive person. He came back and said, so what can I do? Because it looks as if the view I have for myself is very different from what people see. But that is the minority. The majority will even go ahead and now start looking for other jobs. Just think the world is against them. And this is just hell. And people don't appreciate, I am the best thing that happened to this company and they've not noticed. So let me move on. So there is that parity, disparities on reactions. But shock, some people who get very, very upset need actually counseling. There are cases when you probably need to engage a counselor just to make them be real. Especially people who have been from an emotional abuse past. There are things that people don't appreciate you till you build a character around yourself. Like people I've always noticed people who come maybe from some background, like the KDF families, DODs, they normally have picked another character, which is a pseudo character about themselves. So when you tell them things, they are shocked, they are teary, and they are normally really like counseling cases. You take them through a counseling session for them to look at the report from a positive perspective so that they can improve.
Okay. Rispa, you had your hand up before we conclude on this one. We sum it up. Rispa?
Hi.
Hi.
She mentioned what I wanted to say, but maybe I can add. Someone would get shocked if you've waited a whole year to tell me on the 11th month or the 12th month that you're not performing and you can't, basically you're not holding your end of the deal. For a whole 12 years, 12 months, you're quiet, last minute you give me this bad feedback.
Exactly, strike it while it's hot, give feedback, good or bad, at the right time, know the environment and everything and whatever. And that's why it is important for people to learn, who am I? So that you don't get shocked, you know your bright side, your dark side, what needs to be worked on. We've already given you that feedback. So it's not a shock. You know, when 59 people are saying, oh, well, this is how we see you, then you're shocked and whatever. It's things that we need to discuss. And again, why would you not give me feedback to enable me do better, perform better, aspire to do better? And you leave it until the 11th hour when we are having the evaluation. Yeah, many managers tend to do that, and it is not right. We need to give feedback. Yeah. Becomes angry. When do we become angry? When shock and angry is two very different emotions. Becomes angry. Visibly angry. We'll bang the table. This is it. Becomes angry, visibly angry. You know, you can see the anger in them. For example, under which circumstances do we see that? Anyone? Please share. You can even think if they had a gun, they would shoot you. Anyone? Anger management. When maybe something has happened that they won't get the feedback, they become very angry. Yeah, guys, come on. Denies your right to give feedback. Anyone?
I would say maybe when they get what they didn't expect, like maybe someone was expecting a rating of, let's say 80%, then you give them 30, you know, and deep inside they know they can't do that low. Just, you know, kasiriko too. I would say
very angry,
yeah,
that they have not achieved what they were hoping to achieve. They become very angry. They cannot even express themselves. They will carry the anger for some time. That's what we see. Lydia?
Catherine, I'm just wondering whether there's also a personality perspective in terms of how somebody takes in feedback or their reaction. Because some people say who are perfectionists or cholerics, like they believe in themselves, I'm delivering, and yet maybe is some shortcomings, then they are not able to take it very well. And also just wondering also whether there's a gender perspective to it. Sometimes, although maybe that is stereotyping, but sometimes there's also some truth in it. How the differences on how men and women take in feedback.
Yeah. Okay. So personality definitely plays a big role in how we receive feedback. Yesterday we said there are two types of people who are open to feedback and people who are averse to feedback. The people who are averse to feedback have really not called themselves to a meeting to understand who they are, have actually not taken time to internalize where I am working and how I'm supposed to behave. You know, they just think, well, this is a job. I come and do it and go. And I can display my emotions the way they want. Those are the other people we said yesterday. They say, well, this is how God created me. Siezi fanya kitu, mi nakasirikanga haraka. You hear, there's no win there. Never. It's actually a very, it's a very unfortunate line to use in any sphere of your life, that I can't unlearn. I can't become a better person. We must try. And as managers, we must use a coaching perspective of saying, who are you? How can you do better? This thing is not leading you to a better place. How can I help you? Yeah. I saw a hand up. I can't remember the name. Please unmute yourself. I've forgotten the name. Definitely, but as much as we are supposed to be vulnerable at our workplaces, vulnerability means that you ask for help where you need help and be respectful to other people. So that's the only time that we know that we are actually coming to terms with who we are and how people perceive us. You know, again, we also don't want to be so stifled of this Catherine that you see here is a different Catherine that you see at home. You want to see the same Catherine in the same element, be it in a social gathering, be it at work, be it at home, be it in the society. You want to know it's the same person. You know, have you ever gone to a party and you didn't think that the host who invited, the host knows me and knows someone else in another department which you collaborate, and that person never talks. But when they're in that, maybe you go in and the party is at the height of its enjoyment, and you find that they are the life of the party. In fact, you take a double take and say, is this the same person or it's their twin, identical twin? You know, very different. You want to make sure that you create environments where it is me, you know, and you're able to give me feedback and say, this one is not accepted. And if it continues, there will be consequences. Yeah. Denies your right to give feedback. Skivers, I would like to talk to you. I'm busy. Never appearing. They are your juniors, by the way. Do you have problems or like this? Never. Will never come. Why? Call them skivers. Why? They'll never. And you look for them. They're never there. Is Catherine at their desk? Yeah, I'm busy. I have another meeting. Okay, let's do this. And then you say, okay, fine. We pencil it in at tomorrow at 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock, they won't appear. I got busy, did something else. Why? What are they running away from? Denies you the right to give them feedback. Can be very frustrating if you work with such people.
Yeah,
Why?
maybe one thing I can attribute it to trust issues again. If there are trust issues at the workplace, people would rather be hedgehogs. You know, like where you just go into a barrel, hide, and say, as long as I keep delaying this, they can't, you know, take the form to maybe to HR or something of that nature. Then they'll soon forget, and it just becomes another paper in the interim. So there are trust issues in an organization like that, and there's also a bully mentality. Sometimes, from a senior perspective, and there could also be relationship struggles between people, maybe between the person you're supposed to be giving. They are known to stand for a certain opinion. So hata ukienda umwambia I got saved yesterday, he will not accept, you know, to change his opinion. He'll always see you from a different perspective. So those are the things that make people sky. Mainly, it is actually relational. It's relational and trust. Yeah.
Relationship and trust. Yeah, comes very difficult for us to be able to work with people whom we cannot trust, whom we don't feel comfortable working with, you know, and it's their opinion or the highway. So I would rather just, well, I don't want to hear from you. Let's have, actually, they never talk. They would rather talk on email, communicate through written communication anyway, and to avoid any interaction face to face. Very, very, very bad place to be in terms of giving feedback. So of course we've highlighted that. All the discussions that we have had in the previous slide. Possible reasons for the unfavorable reaction could be lack of trust most of the time, perceive feedback as a challenge. The people who are averse to feedback perceive feedback as a power struggle between you and me. You know, I want to go ahead and all these things that you keep saying really hinder my progress, you know, because you're in power. I want to get there, but you want to hinder my progress. People who are insecure. Yesterday I said, employ people who are better than you, and you won't feel insecure. You know, you'll be seated there smiling all the way to the bank, thinking, yeah, and provide that leadership to that team. You will see wonders. Feel under pressure and simply cannot take anything else on board. You know, there's a lot of pressure that comes with the business, what you're supposed to perform, and also feel the pressure of people who are not towing the line. You know, I won't conform. After all, I'm doing my work. I'm the one who holds this company together. My sales, I mean, all these 10 salespeople put together, I beat them 100%. So what are you telling me? So the pressure of managing people and the pressure of managing the business is real to many people. Okay. So disagree, I will not go through that. They already, we've already highlighted all that. Uninterested, unconcerned, shocked, and even cries. We've seen all that. Let's move to, do we receive feedback? It is worth considering the stage. Okay, so someone can unmute themselves, and how do we receive feedback? Do we receive feedback? Someone can unmute themselves, and let's just go this one. Yeah. Just read whatever is on the slide, then we can unpack it, please.
I can read.
Yeah, thank you, Jane.
Okay, so we're looking at, do we receive feedback? Is it worth considering? It is worth considering at this stage. One, how constructive is the feedback you receive? How you feel about receiving feedback? How much feedback you receive now? Who gives you feedback and who does not?
Thank you very much. Yeah, okay. So as an individual who's receiving feedback, even you yourself need to understand what kind of feedback I should be receiving. And that's why it is important in an organization to make sure that people do understand that we do not give destructive feedback in our organization. We focus on positive and negative feedback. Of course, when people think negative feedback, what do you mean by that? You go in and tell them negative feedback allows for you to correct whatever is happening, what is going wrong, and also is a basis to motivate you to move forward. You know, because there will always be conflict, unfortunately, in the organization. And conflict should only be brought about by work, not personalities. But majority of the time, conflict is because we have not understood the other person's personality. So we tend to focus more on the person compared what is on the table, the task that is bringing the conflict. So we should always aim to make sure that whatever conflict there are, they focus on work and the deliverables compared to the team or the two persons who are in conflict. So we must be able to tell people, how do I want to receive feedback? It should be constructive. How constructive is the feedback you receive? You know, I find it constructive. I find that it is I'm happy to receive it from time to time for me to be able to to be a better person. How you feel about receiving feedback? How should people feel about receiving feedback generally, overall? If it is done well. If it is done well. In an ideal world, yes, Catherine.
I think it's a point of learning. It's also a point of transformation, because when you realize where your weak areas are, then you attempt to work on them so that they don't threaten your existence in that position. And maybe some positive feedback would be probably insisting to be in a certain situation, and somebody sees you performing better somewhere else where there is a gap. So feedback is very important, because it's the time you start to look at your strengths and your weaknesses, your SWOT again differently. you reevaluate yourself, and it can probably just change you completely from a different department, and you go somewhere else where now that strength is celebrated. Because sometimes people work where weaknesses show, because you're employed for the strength you have, not for the weakness. So feedback helps you to see through that.
Yeah. Feedback should be able to transform you. I like that word that you use. Feedback should be transformational, where I know that I have received this feedback. I'm happy receiving feedback. But again, like what we have said, we need to be able to put it into perspective. In organization, we do give feedback, and how you feel about that feedback is a reflection of the kind of person that you are. Difficult feedback will come, good feedback will come, and when it's difficult feedback, we must also be cognizant of the person and the time that we're giving that feedback. So we make it more gentler to them so that they can accept it, and even they know that, well, people care about me when they are giving me that feedback. Yeah. Who gives you feedback and who does not? Who's supposed to give you feedback and who's not supposed to give you feedback? In an organization, who gives you feedback? Who is not supposed to give you feedback? In your opinion, should everybody give you feedback? Is everybody expected to give you feedback?
Catherine, sometimes in as much as my direct supervisor is the one entitled to give me a feedback on my performance, I would also appreciate like the 360, there is 360 degree, so that I can also know, my personality, maybe my relations, how I relate with each other, the rest of the rest of the departments. And like you said, it also builds in making me understand who I am. Yeah. So I both will do. The direct supervisor and the 361 for me will do. Yeah.
As an individual, just being able to ask for feedback for people who you know that will give you constructive feedback. But if you have been in a conflict with someone over time, you don't seem just to work together to be able to have really a smooth working way. There are some people you still feel. I like to ask that question. When you look at people and just label them already, look at this one. You've already labeled them and you don't not even work with them. We just don't seem to get along. I hear those kind of statements everywhere, and we know it. We just don't seem to get along. What is this that we cannot get along? And we don't know each other. We should try as much as possible. And of course, if you really want feedback from that person, sometimes they might not give you very objective feedback. But if you have that discussion and say, they might also at a certain time be the best people to give you feedback. This is how I see. This is how you present yourself. So just learn who should give you feedback at what situation, at what time. And if it's people whom you really don't get along very well, which you should anyway, but that's not the ideal world, you should also be able to look at an opportune moment for them to give you that feedback. Okay. From whom do we need and want feedback? We need feedback from those whose opinion we value most and who can have the greatest influence in our development. However, you may be less willing to accept feedback from your staff, feeling that they threaten your position as the manager. But remember that your staff know you more closely than others can often offer a very valuable review. Similarly, close colleagues or other team members can provide a unique perspective on your skills and communication ability. So that's why it's important to have that 360 feedback. Even if your organization does not have it, how about you being proactive and come and say, well, I would like to hear feedback about me and give people the opportunity to be able to do that. That reminds me, I was going through my personal development for many years. Just I'd been invited to put in a proposal for a project that is coming up for coaches around and going around and whatever. I went back. I don't know what made me go to a file that I had put in the archives for a long time. My very first job when I became a manager. And I don't even know how I solicited for feedback from my peers, from my juniors, from my whatever. And actually, I can't even think of what made me do that, you know. And the feedback that they gave me, I could see myself having grown over time, and some of the things that they said are still what drives me as an individual, and some of the things that I needed to drop for me to be a successful manager, getting into management and stuff like that. So I think it is important for us, even I'm sure maybe there are some people who are starting off in their careers, early stages of the career, maybe in this forum, or some people who are already very senior in their career. What I'm trying to say is that get feedback from all quarters at any time of your career, at any time when you get the opportunity, from your seniors, from your juniors, and just reflect back and say how far you have grown. I'm sure when you did your first maybe assessments from university or from college, it's very different. Some things are very inherent, some things will not change, but in building your leadership skills, it continuously grows as you get more experience and as you invite people to give you feedback. As we say, that feedback is a gift. How to give constructive feedback? If you are not getting feedback, ask for it. Feedback helps you to improve your performance. So as you are giving feedback, make a plan for receiving feedback. Decide on the outcomes that you want, calibrate your feedback, alert your feedback provider that you are looking for frank review, use your communication skills, be specific about the help that you are looking for. So you might be looking for, well, how do I communicate? My communication skills. How do I delegate? I'm looking for feedback on my delegation skills. Yeah, so it could be in any aspect of life that you want to get feedback on as an individual. So be specific, use good communication skill when you are doing that, whether you are going to give it out in a written form or you're going to give it out, you'll ask someone to come for a meeting with you or something like that. So be ready to receive that feedback and know what you're going to do with that feedback. So this is individual to you. You know, what do I want for myself? And you must be able to go out there proactively and whatever. How to deal with less constructive feedback? Someone would want to read for us, please? Someone, just unmute yourself, just read the way it is, please. Someone?
Okay, let me read.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. It is possible that sometimes you might receive negative feedback or criticism on your work. Mm-hmm. Here are a few tips on converting that criticism into constructive feedback. Mm-hmm. So one, identify what their motives are in giving you this particular feedback at the particular time. Mm-hmm. Second, take control of your thoughts by seeking the positive intent behind apparently negative words. Mm-hmm. Thirdly, if the feedback is subjective or directed at your personality or attitude, cite examples and use your questioning skills to move the feedback onto the real issues. Mm-hmm. Fourthly, visualize the successful outcome of that change. It will help motivate you to make the changes. Mm-hmm. And lastly, go out and implement your plan, making sure to review your progress.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Isn't this something that you can easily use as a tip on how to, when you have received negative feedback or criticism about your work, how can you turn it into a positive? You know, instead of wallowing in anger or in shock or in disbelief of what it is, how can it be? How will it be? How come it came to be and stuff like that? Are you able to do some of these things? You know, take control of your thoughts. Thank you, Catherine, for reading. By seeking the positive intent behind apparently negative words. What are some of the negative words that we hear? Examples of negative words? And some people just don't know how to choose their words. Their choice of words can be very negative. Some negative words that we hear.
What were you thinking when you put this in place?
What were you thinking when you put that in place? Yeah, very common. What were you thinking? Negative words.
From what we read earlier, there's that scenario question that we had, and that no, you did not do it right.
Yeah, no. No, you start with a no. Negative words. That's a negative word. Other negative words that we tend to use a lot.
Yeah. What's wrong with you? You know.
What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? You know, it's the anger comes out. What's wrong with you? Negative words. Someone else, other negative words that we use, and we should try as much as possible to turn them into positive in terms of it's a negative, but rephrase them for someone to think, okay, fine, it's still negative. It's still not the news that I expected to receive, but I have a chance to redeem myself. Someone else? Negative words.
So and so has better analytical skills than you.
So and so has better analytical skills than you. Yeah. Someone else? Someone else?
Hey, you're always doing this. You're always doing the wrong thing. You know.
Always doing the wrong thing. Very, very, very common. Very true. Yeah. Okay. So how can we turn some of those negative words into better phrases, adjectives, so that we have better conversations, even if we are giving feedback that is not very positive? The person might be feeling that it's a bit heavy. Negative feedback. Let's call it what it is. Negative feedback. How can we turn some of those words that we have said into positives? For example, just for example. Yes, Catherine.
I think the idea of euphemisms, because again, you can become a diplomat when you are not supposed to be one, because you need again to get the feedback across, but use kinder words. You know, this issue of using very hard words. You use words that still make the feedback be felt, but from a kind perspective. You know, the way we say physically challenged rather than you are lame or you are handicapped, that's why you cannot do this. I guess those are some of the kind words. You're still getting the strong point across that the person needs to really pay attention to the aspect they need to pay attention to, but you say it from a perspective of love. Let me use it, unconditional love, that I would want this. And even the arrangement of words or how you're giving the feedback would matter, because if you know the personality, you'd also work along what the personality feedback reception system is like, because then that calls for that. You use that personality way of managing a feedback.
Yeah, of course, getting to know the person. Thank you, Catherine. Before I just let Rhoda unmute and share, it's around knowing the person, using kinder words, rephrasing, in fact, the mantra that we should take away from this webinar today: treat others the way I would like to be treated. Then it gives you such sanity. How would I like to be treated if I was in this situation? How would I like to be talked to? The said, the unsaid, my demeanor, how I throw my hands around, how I look at you, such kind of things. It just relates. When you think about it, then even the choice of your words, being present, listening a little bit more, listening to your own voice and what you want to say, gives you a perspective of whatever, but not thinking, I need to finish this feedback session, I need to go to the next thing, the targets are waiting to be done. If you purpose to give feedback, create time and enough time to be able to do it, and having debriefed on what you are going to say and not use negative words. Stand those negative words, and we're not saying we be sissies, those soft feelings and whatever. Be firm, factual, yet diplomatic. Yeah. Yes, yes, Rhoda.
Yes, Catherine. And I think is maybe the avoidance of positive criticism and the comparison in one sentence. Like you see, if it was so and so, they could have done it better than you. That one makes someone feel inferior and like they are not doing anything. So because you're comparing them with so and so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. True.
That one also.
Very true. Yeah. Don't compare other people with others. This is an individual session. It focuses on me. Don't bring other people into the fold. There might be, you can say, this is what our department would like to do. This is what is expected of us. And we would like you to contribute towards that. You're failing in that aspect and your team members are feeling that. You are not pulling your weight. You've not dropped any names. You've just said in totality that this is what this is how you are letting down the team because of this behavior or your lack of performance. Okay, great. Okay. Any other input there? Okay, great. So be clear in advance about what you want to say. Think about your process, why you are saying it, where you are going to say it, when would it be most appropriate to say it. Again, clarity, the 4 whys as to why you need to be as clear as day and night. So there is no ambiguity around what you want to say. Where you are going to say it, it's not just the place. Of course, there will be a meeting that you have called, but at what point in this conversation will you be saying where you want to say it in that conversation? You don't bring it in the beginning while it was supposed to be at the end. Yeah. Why are you saying it? The objective is clear. We already know the goal as to why we are saying it. What you want to say, this is what I want to say. And I want to say this because the rules say this, the company says this, this is what we have seen. When it would be appropriate to say it, when, at what point, when we are all ready to receive that feedback. Okay. So of course we always say, start with the positive. Very true. What is a positive? Start with the positive. Why should we always start with the positive? Challenges of giving feedback. Why should we start with the positive? The first one is to be clear. The next one is to be start with the positive. Why start with the positive?
Can I answer?
I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Just go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Paula, then Robert, then Catherine.
I think when you start with the positive, you create the environment, you buy in on the emotions, we're emotional beings. So you set the pace and the tone for positive receiving of the feedback.
You set the tone. Yeah, you get the buy-in. Yes, thank you, Paula. Robert?
Yeah, I also wanted to say to set the tone and also to include that when you start with the positive, you also draw interest. Naturally, people are more inclined to receive positive whatever information well than the negative where people recoil and you lose interest.
You lose interest, yeah. Like the slides we saw, disinterested. After all, you've already said it, what it is. You're more inclined to get more. Yeah. Thank you, Catherine.
I think one thing I'd say, no matter how many books or schools of thought we go to, we are still human at the end of the day. And if you even look at it from your own child, for those ones who have children, you'll notice that a child who doesn't like to eat some type of food which they need eat, you always come through with something that is good first. Then it becomes a motivator. Like ukimaliza hii chakula, then you can have this sweet, or then you can have this piece of chocolate. So it tends to make the person now concentrate on, let me finish this bad task that has to really be dealt. And that is the aspect we look for, that the person is totally there so that you have a larger share of their attention. Because when you now use the word however, you see, that's bold underline. They will already be there. Their attention will already be there, and they will see that you appreciated them. It's just human nature.
It's human nature. And I think one of the things that from the three, thank you very much, it's around even that positive, the positive start of the conversation, start with something positive. That's also something positive. They have seen it. You have always reaffirmed, this is what you do. They know that you understand and you appreciate their positiveness. So be authentic. It's not like you never say, then all of a sudden, oh, by the way, let me just tell you, if I have never told you that you are so good in this. It's a natural conversation. When I'm expecting to receive negative feedback, I already know it is coming. We all agree here. If the supervisor has already created the environment, the organization, we're able to coach, we're able to have good communication, we've set the pace, how it is going here, boss is about to call me and we're about to have this conversation. So I already know. And I already know that I deserve this negative feedback because I have let the team down. I have actually let myself down. So it's no brainer. In fact, it's just like, boss, I saw that agenda and I knew it was coming. And I'm happy that you've called me here. We're able to have this discussion. So it's already preempted. It's not coming out of the blues, and maybe because you need to formalize it, that is why we are having it. So it's just making it, amplifying it, anchoring it, not amplifying it in your policies that maybe this needs to be done, and it's been picked up by other quarters as well. So what I'm trying to say is that positive statement that you start with, all those other things that you start with, they already know. It makes it easier. There is no undercurrent. Everybody is happy to have this conversation. Okay, great. Anybody else? So Robert, please read for us. Thank you, Robert. Your hand is up. I know you contributed, but it's your time to read.
Okay. I start from the left side.
We can start with either.
Okay. A positive self-concept is therefore important for the individual to be more open to learning opportunities. If the feedback commences on a positive note, the receiver's ego is not impacted, and he will be ready to accept negative feedback as a genuine advice for his involvement. Constructive feedback can enhance self-esteem, and with a positive self-esteem, the individual will be more likely to feel comfortable at making personal changes. Negative feedback hurts self-esteem. Individuals with a less positive self-image lack confidence to evaluate themselves objectively. They will become more resistant to growth and change.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, so it all boils back to me as a person, knowing myself and you knowing the other person. You just know anything you do to Catherine, her ego is normally so bloated or so timid. If you put this negative feedback, it's going to break her. So that is why it is important for us to know ourselves and the other person to know who we are and when it is time for us to give the feedback, because hurting people's self-esteem, and especially if you put it out in the open, you go and say this is what it really puts people down. So it's important for us to know that negative feedback will still hurt us, even if how strong I am as a person. Nobody wants to get negative feedback. I can't even believe what the president goes through. See, the other day he said, this is a job that I would never take even if you give me another chance or something like that. He said, actually, it's a hard job. And it's indeed, it's a hard job, but I think it's also very, I don't know, self-achieving, if we put it like that. I don't know whether it's in the highest Maslow hierarchy of needs or something like that, you know, actualizing or something like that. Well, it's different. President of a country, I think it's a hard job. Many people are always complaining. We're always giving negative feedback. You know, there are very few times that we give positive feedback, but that's why then you should have technocrats, your cabinet, to be able to help you get all that. So of course it hurts our self-esteem, it deflates our ego, but how you give it is positive note. It's always to start with something positive, then you move on. Okay, great. Okay, so why are we selecting priorities? Someone read it out, please. Select priorities as so first to be clear, then start with the positive, then select priorities. Someone read and unpack it for us, please. Please. Are we selecting priorities? Anyone, please unmute yourself, especially maybe someone who has not said anything on this webinar, the 60 of us, please. Feel free to unmute. Anyone, please? Unmute.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you.
It's not always appropriate to share every possible piece of feedback with the receiver. It is appropriate to decide how much feedback the receiver can take so that the experience is helpful and useful to him or her. It is also appropriate to select priority areas, the appropriate number of the most important, useful points, and express this genuinely, positively, and sensitively.
So it's what it is, you know, select priorities. And why do we select priorities? So that we know what is hurting the person, where is hurting the business, so that we can be able to select to put those priorities in order of how they should be dealt with. So it's important. And how should we, when we are selecting these priorities, who selects the priorities? Who selects the priorities? Who should be selecting the priorities? Any select priority areas? Can say in order of priority, this is the most this is top priority, this is second, and maybe have that discussion. And sometimes the person can say, no, I don't see that as a priority. Why can't we look at this, or maybe join these two priorities together? They seem to be talking about the same thing. Who should be selecting the priorities, or how do we set the priorities? Is there a way, or the supervisor comes and says, these are the priority areas I want you to work on? Anyone?
I think one of the things that you talked about was positive feedback. And for me, this is practice. It may not be the right thing, but you as a supervisor, you know what you want to prioritize.
Yeah.
And they themselves probably are packed up their own agenda. So I think when you put the agenda down and you just ask, can we put a priority based on an objective view? Then you all come up with a priority, the two of you, such that you ask, you also let them choose theirs, and then look at what you basically want, and then you put it as if you are just offering, and shouldn't we do this and that? You know, then they feel in touch. And when they feel in charge, also that it is a win-win situation, they agree to your schedule. But when you now impose, you just start looking like the Archbishop, and already it's a negative feedback vibe you get from them.
It's true. So you need to know where you've already started well. Then after that, you're not giving them an opportunity to come and say, I hear you, and I understand why you want us to start with this priority. And for me, I'm able to work on that priority. I totally agree. You don't have to become the Archbishop or the Archbishop of Canterbury. Yeah, Rispa?
My opinion,
yeah,
I think the priorities should be based on the organization's KPIs. The supervisor or the manager in this case will set the priorities, but of course based on the agreed upon KPIs, looking at what has affected this employee's performance the most, what will affect the employee's performance of the organization from reaching the objectives or their goals. That should be prioritized.
Yeah, true. Prioritize based on a business need, from where we're coming from, what are the objectives, what is the strategy, what are the KPIs for the organization. Totally agree. And from a value perspective, it is behavior. You know, what are some of these behaviors that you are not exhibiting, and they need to come up you need to come up to speed. So just making the priorities very correctly. Be very specific. If the feedback is going to be helpful, then it is likely that the feedback needs to be linked with a concrete example or specific situation or event. Don't be, don't allow for, but I thought, you didn't tell me, that is not correct. That is not was my understanding. In my perspective, this is what I did, and I thought it was correct. So it's not a push and pull. It's more of a discussion around, these are the facts on the table. Let me give you an example. This is what happened the other day, while you knew very well that these were the results that were expected, but you turned up the opposite of the results were opposite of what was expected. So saying that was great, or it was stressful, or dreadful, does not help the recipient in any way. Explain the details, and in your logical for and your logic for reaching such conclusions and evaluations. Be very logical, and some people will ask questions more. Allow people to ask questions, and allow yourself to have that time to answer the questions. Don't just say, well, no, let's not dwell in it. If they want more information, give it to them. And of course, sometimes you don't have that information. Say, I will come back to you at a certain day. Allow me to go and check and reconfirm what you have said, and I will come back. So, and that's why we are saying it is very important for you to have all your facts right, having thought through it before you ask for the meeting for giving negative feedback. Don't just go in hastily without having adequately prepared you as a person who's going to give the feedback, because questions might come up, and those questions are important to repair what is the damage that has been done. Okay, yeah. Refer to practical processes which can be changed. Feedback is likely to be of maximum use if the provider uses it as a means to improve the performance of the recipient. So the provider has to relate to the review to some specific aspects of their performance over which they have some level of control. What do we mean by that? So that the provider, who's the provider, let's say the supervisor, has to relate to the review to some specific aspects of their performance over which they have some level of control. Who has this level of control, guys? No, we are coming to wind up. About to wind up. We're about to wind up. I see people looking at their clocks. Some level of control. Feedback is likely to be of maximum use. Yeah, Rispa?
I think where the employee has control, because if you're giving me feedback for improvement or change over things I have no control over, then there's nothing I can do.
It's true. Yeah. You remember? Where be specific, set priorities, some level of control, things that I can do. You're telling me to do this. However, you're not giving me control. You're not empowering me. You still want to micromanage me. What is that all about? So let's make sure that we have some level of control, and that control should not be abused. People should also know that they are working within. I trust you, and I don't expect you to abuse that trust that we have. You're supposed to be at a certain place at a certain time. You're supposed to be working on this. You're supposed to be meeting the deadlines. If you're not meeting the deadlines, then you're saying that, well, please give me more time. I'm not meeting this deadline because of this and this and that. Okay. Anything there that you would like to add? Draw out and offer alternatives. This is particularly important when you are offering negative feedback to ensure that such feedback is constructive. It is usually appropriate to offer, discuss, or draw out alternative strategies. We've already spoken about that. This might not work under this instance, these circumstances. Why don't we look for something different? In this way, feedback is likely to be perceived as mere criticism, and you have made efforts to combine negative feedback with positive suggestions or alternatives. The recipient will also feel that the ideas are not thrust on him, but they're only having the authority to choose the alternative that suits them. So we are not just giving them to you. We are saying that draw out, let's look for whatever, and then let them look for the other alternatives that that they can make in this instant. Who should be owning the feedback? Who should own the feedback finally in that aspect of how whatever? Finally, who should own the feedback? We have said all that. We've set priorities. We've drawn out, we've given priorities. We have made it very clear from there, be very clear. Start with a positive, select priorities, be very specific, refer to practices, processes which need to be changed, give some level of control, and finally draw out and offer alternatives. And finally, you want to do what? You want to make sure that they own the process. Who should be owning the process? Own the feedback? Who should own the feedback? Is it both of you? Is it the supervisor or is it the person receiving the feedback?
I think it's both. But in terms of priority, of course, the person who's been given, the employee who's been given the feedback is, in terms of importance, is more important for them. But the person who's also supervising them can coach them through the processes that they need to improve on. So both should actually own the process. And where the supervisor may not have the capacity to work on some of the weaknesses, they can either use consultants, send them to a coach or something. But I think ideally successful feedback mechanisms are where both parties agree that they have a role to play.
Yeah, both parties have a role to play. Someone else, different opinion or re-emphasizing that? Who owns the feedback? Anyone else? Very last one. Any? Okay. So very true. You can only speak on behalf of your review team. Hence, any feedback you give to another can only be from your review team's experience, perceptions, beliefs, and values. The thought process of other people may be different from yours. So give feedback in such a way that the recipient clearly understands that the feedback is based only on your team's objectives, interpretations, and conclusions. So we are all owning it here, that this is my perception, that is your perception. We've come to an agreement where we all feel that I'm able to work on what you have told me to work on. You will support me, you will guide me, and it will be objective. Even when we go back to the team, they can see a marked improvement. So let's own the feedback. Let everybody own the feedback, but the bulk of the work stops with the person who has been given the feedback and being able to actualize some of the points that they have been told that they need to work on. So either performance or behavior. Very, very important. So I leave those real life, whatever. So let's look at the last aspect of giving constructive feedback. Very memorable in terms of, if you don't take anything today, this is the last whatever. Okay. So someone can read for us, please, the acronym HARD. And it goes so well in giving feedback because it's all about hearing. It's all about conversations. It's all about open communication. So let's talk about HARD. Someone who has not spoken today, please, it's the last 5 minutes of our webinar. Anyone?
Can we do it?
Thank you, Rosaline.
Yeah, I'm reading at the harder.
Yeah.
Giving constructive feedback is self-expressive, interpersonal communication skill, whose specific language and attitude are helpful, guided by the mnemonic HARD, which means honest, explicit, authentic, respectful, direct.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Rosaline. Okay, so what do we mean by honest? Let's unpack them in no order of, you can take any that expressive interpersonal communication. You remember where we need to put on our interpersonal skills? Very important. Verbal, non-verbal, how I relate with you, how you look at me, first impressions. Let's unpack them. What you think about honest, my communication, explicit, authentic, respectful, and direct. Very, very things that we like, things that we enjoy hearing. Let's go. Hard. Anyone? Okay, so let's just unpack that. So hard, honest, truthful. It's not shrouded in mystery. It has integrity. You can go back. You know, it's so nice to always tell the truth because you don't have to remember. You know, I keep on saying that truth and being honest, your wings. It's not like flying to the sun with wings made of wax, because they will melt and you will not be able to get to the next level. And of course you will, it's not worth it. So you don't have to sleep. What did I say yesterday? It's truthful. This feedback I'm giving you is truthful. It's factual, explicit, clear, distinctively expressing all that is meant, leaving nothing implied or suggested. Where we say it very specific, we can even think, well, SMART, that acronym of SMART. Authentic, original, firsthand, speaks to the speaker, not about others, where someone else actually just reaffirms where let's not talk about someone else. It's about me. It's about us in the room. This is what we want to be. We're authentic. We original. It's coming from, it's factual. It's firsthand. This is what happened. This is what it led into. Respectful, equally sensitive to and considerate of both parties, need to be treated with dignity as equal human beings. Remember where we say that look for a neutral place to have this whatever. Even if I'm the one in authority, the one in power, I still need to view you as a human being, and I still need to respect you. I like when I go to people's round offices and we are having a discussion, they have a round table, you know, this big shiny mahogany furniture that are so powerful, and you look at them, you feel very intimidated. And the person comes and says, let's sit at the round table to have this discussion. Very nice, you know. And I keep giving this tip: if you're not able to come from behind your, if you really can go to the round table, if you don't have a round table, I see two chairs, you know, on the other side of the desk. How about you coming from your desk and go to that two tables, so you're looking at each other? You know, people feel comfortable. They feel that, well, you care about me. This is important. You've stopped doing what you're doing behind your desk and you've come to me. And how about putting down your computer and saying, you've come, let's discuss this. Maybe if you don't have all those kind of furniture in your office, be present, be respectful, be diplomatic, treat others the way you would like to be treated, direct, straightforward, be to the point, you know, not, and that only calls if you have well prepared what you need to discuss. You are not pussyfooting, you are not second guessing, you know, you're straightforward, but you're saying it in a very diplomatic way. So your tone of voice talks a lot about what should be said. Okay, so had any input there? Authentic, respectful, direct, explicit, honest, things that you can always work on, things that you always do when you're giving the feedback. Okay, so let me very quickly, understanding feedback. Feedback is easy for others to hear and understand when the party is receptive to it, is well-timed, it is sufficient, rather than excessive or insufficient quality. I mean, it's sufficient in quality. It describes the pain points, actual events, and specific behaviors. It's directed towards behavior the recipient can control and influence. It evenly balances attention of both positive and negative aspects of the performance. So just recapping what we have said, best given with when receptive. Feedback is most valuable when the recipient has asked for it and has indicated openness for it, and most valuable when some specific issue, need, or problem has given arises to the request. Feedback is imposed when the recipient is open to hearing it and does not conform to and does not conform to the hard guidelines. Okay, well timed. It's important that we do it when it's hot on the heels, not dragging into history, not giving negative feedback when we've already closed that and we are forging ahead. Finally, it's sufficient. There's no point of continuing giving feedback when it is obvious to the recipients as busily engaged with and processing their own turmoil. So it's sufficient. This is what you have said me. Don't start sounding like a broken record. I have heard, I have understood. We have forged forward. This is what needs to be done. And I have the will and I have the understanding of what also the consequences are if I do not do what is expected of me. And remember, feedback wants to change behavior long term. It is not just this one aspect. It's something that you want someone to going out and reflecting and saying that indeed I have learned from there and I should not have been there in the first instance. Descriptive by reporting specific, observing behavior, you know, it's very descriptive. You can give highlights, you know, break down the complexities of the problem so that it's easy for the person to understand. Remember what we said yesterday, a very good example to go back to, that the language I speak to the CEO is very different. The same information that I might be passing to a driver is how I unpack it and maybe give it more emphasis and more examples for them to understand is very, very important. So know your audience, learn your audience so that you are able to give the feedback in a way that they will understand, appreciate, and grow them, and they take the action points for them to be able to understand. Specific, we have said that, be very specific, check the events and the circumstances and the incidents that is being referred to. Respectful, you know, be diplomatic, look at the other person as if it was you. How would you like to be treated? You know, never ever never lose an opportunity and a chance to make a good impression on the person that you're speaking to. Every day, make an impression. Just because you work with them every day, make a deliberate effort to solicit for feedback, and also at the same time make a good impression on the kind of discussions that you're going to have. Especially, thank you, Sarah, for letting us know that we're eating chapati. We are coming after this. And balance attention, negative and positive feedback, good versus bad. And then examples of constructive feedback. I'm just now recapping. Not this, you will have to improve your writing, but I find it hard to read your handwriting reports. Please type them or print them out. Can you please? Will you be able to do that? You know, this area is like a pigsty. Please put the trash in the bin and sweep the floor at least every hour. You know, maybe that is Terry who needs to be done, to who needs to be doing that work. I'm referring to Terry because Terry was the lady who was cleaning the floor. Can you do better than that? I like this because we actually touched on it. I would prefer you to do it the way I showed you. Is there some reason why you're not able to do it that way? And finally, those are some of examples and whatever. So, oh no, not that. Yeah. So in summary, I'd like to tease out some of the key learning lessons. Feedback is an essential element for everyone in an organization, from an organizational workforce and from an organization point of view. Giving feedback is a task you perform again and again as a manager or a supervisor, letting people know where you are and where to go next in terms of expectations, goals, yours, your own, and the organization. Feedback is a useful tool in indicating where things are going in the right direction or redirecting problem performance. Your objective in giving feedback is to provide guidance by supplying information in a useful manner, either to support effective behavior or to guide someone back on track towards successful performance or successful behavior. Part of being an effective manager or supervisor is knowing what feedback to give. The trick is learning how to give constructive feedback so that it adds value and continuously adds value to the person who's receiving that feedback. Constructive feedback is a tool that is used to build things up, not break things down. It lets the other person know that you are on their side and you are out to win and you're out to make them successful. Great. Time to unmute yourselves. Give feedback on on this 2-day program. Was it useful? Are there things that you can take back? Really things that drew to your attention? Questions, answers. We've got a few minutes before we call it a day. Questions, answers, answer session, concerns. Was it useful? Are there things that you can take back to the organization?
Catherine Rhoda here, eh?
Yes.
I must say that it has really been helpful. For me, I've learned a lot. And like I said, there are some things which I've heard today and yesterday which are quite new to me. But all the same, like I said, I'm here for mentorship and learning. So it has really been quite useful and quite insightful. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. Thank you, Rhoda. Someone else? Someone else? Feedback?
I think it's always to give thanks when we need to do this, but feedback is always a topic that can be taught again and again and again every quarter, because it's the missing link to good HR practice, so that for those who are in very difficult places like the SMEs, they can be able to pick something that transforms their workplaces.
Thank you,
Thank you
Ronald.
very much.
Thank you, Catherine. Yeah. Thank you, Ronald. I see your remark thank you for me facilitating and all of us engaging, just being able to give our experiences. Someone else, was it useful? What did we learn from it? Things that you're going to implement or any question that you may have?
Thank you, Catherine, for that training. I think what I've taken home after this 2 days training is that we have to be very aware of constructive feedback and destructive feedback. I think just before we plan to talk with our teams, that we are very aware what we want for them. So we pre-plan if given chance, so that we don't disrupt them with our feedback or just let them not get motivated by what they do, but always aim to have constructive feedback.
Aim to have constructive feedback. Thank you very much. Yeah, and also think through what we want to go and talk to our teams before we engage before we engage in the feedback session. Thank you again. Thanks for a great session. I have benefited from the participants' experiences. Oh, thank you, Jane. Yeah, and that's why we like to come here and hear other people's experiences. Someone else? What you have learned, what you're taking away. Are you able to go back to the organization, help line managers become better feedback givers? Or any question, any concern? Yeah. What I'm taking home is to give constructive feedback. I have to consider a lot of things as well as the level of the person matters. Thank you for great insights. Yeah, thank you, Faith. Thank you very much. You made it very interactive, well articulated. Thank you, Rhoda. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for always giving feedback in terms of us, the facilitators, what we're able to do. Thank you. I feel better equipped now than the beginning. Fantastic. Yeah. Someone else before we call it a day? So we just as you unmute yourself and time in, I'd also like to say from the ACHRP desk, we know that this is the media bundled up training. We have 6 trainings. This is the first of the 2. We've tackled the 2 days. We've tackled constructive feedback. We'll have tomorrow, we will have Agnes taking us through how can I forget? No, Jocelyn, about wellness. And then the third one will be, tomorrow is Jocelyn, and on the third day will be Agnes. She'll be taking us through training. So it's important for us to come to continue, because then we have Thursday, Friday, and Monday, Tuesday, and we hope that we see you as we continue to learn. I would like also to thank all of you for being very avid participants, giving your experiences, sharing. Grace, you need to mute me, making you moderators, and also just bringing out the best in this webinar. So for me, I would like to say thank you very much, and I wish you a good day, and let's meet again tomorrow. So you can mute yourself, say have a good day, and we see you tomorrow. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for
have a good day. Thank you.
You're welcome. See you guys tomorrow. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, thank you.
Such a good session.
Thank you. Appreciate you all being here. Yeah, thank you for making time. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you again for facilitating.